Good evening. It's time to bring you news making headlines around the world and in Ghana on News 360. My name is Lisa Moni.
And I'm Natalie Fort. Let's get into the headlines for this evening.
News 360 Headlines is brought to you by
12 suspects in connection with a Kwabena police station attack arraigned.
And Nungwa Teshi Labadi Resident Coalition backed down from an intended protest over the shutting down of Teshi desalination plant.
Also ahead this evening, Industrial and Commercial Workers Union and Chamber of Petroleum Consumers blame high cost of living in the country on frequent increases in petroleum prices.
And implementation of mobile money interoperability rescheduled to February after missing the initial November 2017 deadline.
And on the international front this evening, China dismisses reports it bugged the African Union headquarters at Addis Ababa.
We have details including sports and entertainment coming up this hour. Stay with us as we begin the news straight away. And tonight, the 12 suspects who have been arrested in connection with the Kwabena police station attack have been arraigned before court. Now, the case could, however, not be heard owing to the unavailability of the judge. Stella Mamenya was in court and has come through with the following report.
There was heavy security presence at the court. The case could, however, not be heard owing to the unavailability of the judge, His Honor Abuaje Tando. The prosecution also had to amend their fact sheet. The case was therefore adjourned to Tuesday, January 30. The attack on the police station on Sunday, January 21, led to the escape of 7 suspects. A police officer on duty, Inspector Emmanuel Ashilevi, was also killed in the attack. A manhunt by the Accra Police Command led to the arrest of the 12 suspects.
In other news this evening, U.S. Ambassador to Ghana Robert Jackson has expressed shock that Ghana has granted the 2 ex-Guantanamo Bay detainees brought into the country about 2 years ago refugee status. Now, speaking with journalists in Tamale, he says the American government has washed its hands off the Gitmo 2 after the 2-year contract expired.
Parliament resumed sitting with news from government that the 2 former Guantanamo Bay detainees had been granted refugee status.
The Ministry of Interior has informed my ministry of records at the Refugee Board, which reveal that the government at the time granted the 2 detainees refugee status.
The posturing of the then NDC government and now MPP government has come under intense criticism by international relations experts. When they were brought into the country, the Americans stated the role they were playing.
We're going to help with the remuneration of the expense of the residency and food, etc., for the first period of time.
But the U.S. government has been taken aback with the latest information.
I did not know until this week that they had been granted refugee status. That came as much of a surprise to me as it came to all of you.
The 2 former Guantanamo Bay detainees, Mahmoud Umar Mohammed bin Atef and Khalid Muhammad Salih Al-Dubi, have been in Ghana over the last 2 years.
And we have Charles Uridu, who is the Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister, who is joining us by phone to discuss the status of the Guantanamo Bay refugees. Now, good evening, Charles Uridu, if you can hear me.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Right, Charles. So are you surprised about the American ambassador's statement?
No, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all.
Why not?
The reason being that almost everybody in Ghana, including the Supreme Court, the current government, including Parliament, everybody was sidelined. Nobody knew about this current status. So even if the current government, if the Supreme Court, if the legislature, have been sidelined, how on earth will the American embassy here get to know about this decision? If you go back to the agreement, the demarche, that led to the two of them, led to the two ex-detainees, coming into the country. As part of the agreement, the government of Ghana was to regularly consult on matters regarding the status of the ex-detainees, with the American embassy. So to the extent that even Supreme Court, the Parliament, were not told of the current status of these detainees, ex-detainees, why on earth would they go and tell the American embassy? But that's why we've always said that this decision to confer this refugee status on the ex-detainees, have made the whole thing a little bit cumbersome. Because hitherto, when they were under protective custody, the exit game, to us as the present government was that after the expiration of the agreement, that's on the 6th of January, we were going to get them over to a third country, because the overwhelming Ghanaian populace, and also going in tandem with what we've stood by when we were in opposition, was that we wouldn't want these detainees to stay one day beyond the expiration of the agreement in Ghana. So we had done this, my minister, Honorable Chalaye Kubochi, had gone round, the globe, and we were just about hitting the country that was prepared to take these detainees, in. Then
but Charles, if I may come in here, what can this government do about the current situation, irrespective of whether the American government knows about it or did not know about the refugee status?
It's the current status makes it a little bit, like I said earlier, cumbersome. The reason being that if somebody is conferred on, the right to being a refugee, that person has, certain rights, and there are also certain obligations on government. Some being, access to courts. The people, government should make sure that they have access to education. Government should make sure they have access to work. And again, if government would want them to exit to a third country, they should be consulted. It can never be that the two people will exit Ghana without their knowledge, without their consent. Because as part of this 1951 convention, the 1967 protocol on refugees, they will have to be consulted before they are asked to leave the country.
Right.
Now,
So Charles, are you in a position to tell us if you have been discussing this issue with the American government?
No, for the American government, per the agreement we had with them, they told us right per the agreement that after the 2 years, we will not have anything to do with these refugees. So prior to the expiration of these agreements, we invited the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Chalaye Kubochi, invited the American ambassador, to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I sat in that meeting. And in that meeting, the ambassador was categorical. He was clear that they were going strictly to the demarche. They were not in a position to help in any decision that government was going to take, with the status of the two. But then, when we met them, nobody even knew that they had been conferred on this refugee status. They didn't know, the American embassy didn't know, government didn't know, until recently, that we got wind that, they've been conferred on this status. But notwithstanding that, we, led by the minister, we are still, in consultation with this third country and assuring Ghanaians that we are very, very optimistic that, this negotiation that we are having with this third country will come to fruition, for the exit of these detainees.
Right, Charles, we were told they were given some money in the beginning by the American government for their upkeep. What can you tell us about that now? Is it the Ghana government that is taking care of them now?
It's the agreement that we reached with the American government. The American government was going to pay for their accommodation. The American government was going to pay for their upkeep. They were going to pay for their clothes. The obligation of the American government was going to end on the 6th of January, 2018. So from the 7th of January, the American government will not have any hand in the upkeep of these detainees. But mind you, like my minister said, these detainees, the refugee status that has been conferred on them, they would have the right to work. So as we speak now, they are working. They have their own private work that they are doing. But constantly, the security apparatus is keeping an eye on them. They are 24/7 being monitored, surveilled. Their messages, their phone calls, everything, they are being monitored. Because of how they got to where they are now.
Yeah, you just said they are working and taking care of themselves. What kind of work are they doing?
Oh, they are into private work. They are into private work.
Private work like what?
For the time being, I would want to, withhold this information. I hope you understand, the circumstances surrounding.
Well, I'm struggling to understand, Charles.
No, I'm saying that they are working on their own. But like I said, they are not doing anything illegal in terms of the work they do. Because for the refugee status that's been conferred on them, they have the right to work. So they are working, and this private business, they form their own, small business that they are doing. And the security apparatus is keeping an eagle eye, on them.
Charles, finally, it's being rumored that they are carrying themselves about as Ghanaians and they have Ghanaian passports. Is this something that you can confirm?
Yes, they have a travel document, but it's not a passport. It looks like a passport. On the face of it, it looks like a passport because, their pictures are in,
Good evening. It's time to bring you news making headlines around the world and in Ghana on News 360. My name is Lisa Moni.
And I'm Natalie Fort. Let's get into the headlines for this evening.
News 360 Headlines is brought to you by
12 suspects in connection with a Kwabena police station attack arraigned.
And Nungwa Teshi Labadi Resident Coalition backed down from an intended protest over the shutting down of Teshi desalination plants.
Also ahead this evening, Industrial and Commercial Workers Union and Chamber of Petroleum
Good evening. It's time to bring you news making headlines around the world and in Ghana on News 360. My name is Lisa Moni.
And I'm Natalie Fort. Let's get into the headlines for this evening.
News 360 Headlines is brought to you by
12 suspects in connection with a Kwabena police station attack arraigned.
And Nungwa Teshi Labadi Resident Coalition backed down from an intended protest over the shutting down of Teshi desalination plants.
Also ahead this evening, Industrial and Commercial Workers Union and Chamber of Petroleum Consumers blame high cost of living in the country on frequent increases in petroleum prices.
And implementation of mobile money interoperability rescheduled to February after missing the initial November 2017 deadline.
And on the international front this evening, China dismisses reports it bugged the African Union headquarters at Addis Ababa.
We have details including sports and entertainment coming up this hour. Stay with us as we begin the news straight away. And tonight, the 12 suspects who have been arrested in connection with the Kwabenya police station attack have been arraigned before court. Now, the case could, however, not be heard owing to the unavailability of the judge. Stella Mamenya was in court and has come through with the following report.
There was heavy security presence at the court. The case could, however, not be heard owing to the unavailability of the judge, His Honor.
In the police recruitment exercise, 4,000 applicants are undergoing physical screening in the week-long exercise.
Then you should have originals of all your certificates.
Applicants besieged the National Police Training School Monday morning, some as early as 4 a.m. to be screened after being shortlisted by the recruitment committee after the completion of the online application in the latter part of last year. Unlike the previous years, the parade ground was well barricaded to prevent unauthorized persons from entering the inner perimeter. Anyone who failed at any of the stages was shown the exit. Officials were on hand to continually remind the applicants of the rules.
So check your documentation again and be sure you'll be asked to come to NPTS, Accra. If you don't have that on your voucher, then go to wherever you've been directed to go.
The orderly exercise saw the applicants going through physical body examination.
We have our Director General on the ground. I'm also on the ground. If the teams are not sure of anything, they bring the particular candidate to us for further verification before we endorse whether a person has failed or can be considered.
The second stage was the academic and document examination to ensure information provided during the online registration were accurate. It was during this process that one applicant was arrested.
You know what people can do with photocopies these days. If you can't be here with photocopies, we won't attend to you. Then people who have fake documents, we won't attend to them. When you are found out, you'll be arrested.
Director of Police Public Affairs Directorate DSP Sheila Bayi Bachman spelled out more details about the process.
The qualification relates to nationality, they relate to age, they relate to height, they relate to some academic or professional qualification. The first stage of the application process is past and gone. This is the second stage, which is the physical screening and body selection. And there are some more stages, including background vetting and examination, including medical assessment.
Some applicants spoke to the news team.
Yeah, I'm disqualified. My height was 5.4. I will not be able to come to police or any other armed forces, but I want to further my education.
Oh, it was okay. It's just that the forming of the queue was a little bit difficult, but then we went through it successfully. Your height and then your legs, yeah. The radio certificates and stuff.
They will check on your height, your stomach, your hip, your teeth, your leg, your hands, everything. Yes, I'm ready for it. Yes, I will do it.
The week-long process will end with an aptitude test.
And joining us on Skype to go into the police recruitment exercise is Adam Bona. He is a security analyst. Adam, good evening and welcome to News 360.
Good evening and good evening to your cherished viewers. Good evening.
Right. Adam, in recent times, I mean, we have observed the involvement of some police officers in crimes. Do you think that with the current recruitment exercise going on, the police should put the background, the report, the record of people they want to bring into the service in the public domain for help?
Yes, thank you. Well, not exactly so. I think but I do believe that with the current dispensation, the current police administration, they have done a lot to weed out miscreants who might want to join the police service. And it's instrumental. Before I came online to talk to you, I did some checks in some of the locations, and information reaching me, indicates that most of the centers have been very peaceful, including the Upper West region, where the norm has always been politicians and the big brother pulling a relative, trying to jump a queue and get the person enlisted. But in the Upper West and most of the centers, I think the way things have been, rolled out this year, we are likely to have less of miscreants, entering the police service. And so kudos to the current administration. We pray and hope that they will put in more pragmatic measures in getting to know the background of these people. If some of them are not supposed to be there because they've committed one crime to the other, then those people shouldn't be enlisted, so that we won't be faced with the usual trend where people study training and they are dismissed just like that in the middle of their training. I believe that this function, a lot has gone into ensuring that we don't see this happening again.
Yeah, Adam, yeah. You've mentioned the involvement of some highly placed people in our society in enlisting people or introducing people into the police service. Are you surprised that none of those people, nobody has been mentioned in connection with a police officer who has been involved in a crime?
Yes, I am not surprised. I am not surprised, and the reason being that when you are a politician, and let's say you are a DC, MP, minister, or some big man somewhere, and you sent a relation to be recruited, your name will not be entered into the application process. And so somewhere along the line, when you have gone through and you go to commit crime, then it becomes difficult to link that person to, that politician or that big man who brought him to be enlisted. And so it is the reason why we would have to allow the security services to do their independent job. I have had people call me and say, can you help me do this? Can you help me do that? And my first answer to them is, go through the process just like any other person. And most often you ask them a question, what is your age? And the person will say, I am 37, but I can change my date of birth. And I say, well, don't get involved in any criminality. And so we need to probably, as you are saying, dig and find out those who commit crime after they've been recruited, who actually got them in. If we can investigate some of these crimes committed by especially the police officers and probably the other security agencies, and put their names out there, I think all of us shy away from are not qualified to be an
Adam Bonah, we are grateful for your time. Adam Bonah is a security analyst, and of course, we've been discussing the current recruitment into the police service.
In other news, the Nungua Teshi Labadi Residents Coalition have backed down from an intended protest over the shutting down of the Teshi desalination plant. The residents on January 16 threatened to demonstrate, describing the reason for which government decided to shut down the plant as unjustifiable.
The Teshi desalination plant was commissioned 3 years ago to improve water supply in some areas in Accra, including Teshi, Nungua, Spentes, Lashibi and Sakumono. The plant was however shut down January 1, 2018 for renegotiation of the contractual agreement between the company Messrs. Befisa and the managers of the plant. This resulted in the rationing of water for residents at Teshi, Nungua and environs, leaving residents frustrated. Some threatened to embark on a week-long demonstration to demand the restoration of regular water supply to their communities. The group, known as Nungua Teshi Labadi Residents Coalition's demand, caught the attention of the Ghana Water Company, who held a consultative meeting with assembly members, unit committee members and residents. The Ghana Water Company's revelation of startling financial challenges, including accumulated debt of 100 million from the plant, 610 million owed ECG and others, caused the residents to rescind their decision on the demonstration.
So we've given Ghana Water Company a fair hearing, they've told us their side of story. We had the side of story of Bifisa desalination plants and what was there. They have told us their side of story. We thought that it's only reasonable that since they've told us their side of story with their accumulated debts and also giving us alternatives as to how they would meet up or mitigate these challenges, it's only fair that we will listen to them, see whether they can actually achieve them. Also in a committee that we also recommend that the collaborative committee will work hand in hand with them.
Spokesperson for the group, Gideon Tete, want a broader consultative stakeholder engagement in situations like these. They also want the Ghana Water Company to draw up a rationing timetable to help consumers know actual days of supply.
That committee that will set up for us, we also recommend that there are tankers that will provide water when residents mess up the timetable so far as water is concerned.
Seth Tego, who is chairman of the Teshi Concerned Citizens Association, called on residents to conserve water, awaiting the resolution of the challenge.
Even though we are complaining about the water shortage in the system, we also have a role to play because there are so many illegal connections in the system. There are so many wastage in the system. People connect water without even passing through the right channel. We are all becoming irresponsible citizens because we saw wastage of water. Nobody cared.
And also in the news tonight, the Ghana Journalists Association has presented prizes to the 2016 Journalism Awardees. The Journalists of the Year will receive a 200,000 cedi 3-bedroom house, while other award winners receive cash prizes of 2,000 each and plaques.
The host of Peace FM's morning show, Kwame Sefakai, was not present to receive the prize for being adjudged the 2016 Best Journalist.
Kwame Sefakai, the ultimate winner, is not here. But in our midst is a journalist who is physically cute but professionally huge, Portia Solomon of TV3. In the absence of Kwame Sefakai, Portia is the most important journalist in our midst today.
TV3's Portia Gabo, who received the Komla Dumont Most Promising Journalist Award and Best TV News Report, took home 2 plaques and a prize amount of 7,000 cedis. Peter Kwao Adato, also of TV3, who was awarded the Best TV Health Report, received a check for 2,000 cedis and a plaque. Journalists who received more than one award went home with a corresponding amount of an additional 2,000 cedis. Others who were honored for extensively reporting on the fight against illegal mining, including TV3's Kobne Dujemfi, also received cash prizes and plaques. The CEO of Kwan's Estate, Kofi Anoche, major sponsor of the awards, announced a package for journalists who want to own houses at the Media Village.
We want to make it cost effective. At the end of the day, I hope you don't want to see Kwan's out of business. Yes, so as a matter of fact, we want to accommodate you, but that is not to say that we should use the little income that we have to finish everything for you. At the end of the day, even if you're able to manage and get 2,000, 5,000 Ghana cedis, you'll be happy. So that next year we can continue to sponsor you people.
Some awardees expressed their gratitude for the recognition.
I think this award has certainly come at the right time to motivate me to do more stories that will make an impact in society. And I'll continue to be the voice for the voiceless in society.
It shouldn't just be, accepting the awards and sitting back, but it's imposed a bigger responsibility to do more to positively affect society.
I want to assure the general public that I have to devote my time and resources as well as energy to ensure that we correct the mess that is in society.
The president for the Ghana Journalists Association, Afemoni, explained the delay in the presentation of the awards.
Everything was done in a rush, so they had to be airlifted from China. Plus arrived on the very day we were holding the awards. We were bent on honoring journalists because your sacrifices, your toils, some of the brutalities you experience in the land of beauty should not go in vain.
We'll return shortly with some more stories. Stay with us.
Let's move on to the business segment here on News 360. The Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement System, GIPS, has rescheduled the implementation of the mobile money interoperability to February after missing the initial November 2017 deadline. The mobile money interoperability platform will allow subscribers to transfer money across all mobile networks with ease.
The mobile money interoperability platform will allow all consumers to transfer money across all mobile networks with ease. Currently, transferring mobile money from one network to another is impeded due to the absence of a common system to switch through easily. This has also partly accounted for the relatively high cost in such a transaction compared to transferring money to another on the same network. Initially, GIPS had November 2017 as deadline to complete interoperability, however could not be met due to the inability of the telcos to hook onto the operating platform required for interoperability.
In the world of in the banking sector, we developed in the ISO world, and the telcos work more in the web services arena. But this particular development work will require the two. It took a bit of time for the telcos to be able to develop the interface that would be suitable, appropriate for the ISO environment. I think eventually GIPS had to take the initiative with our developers to develop it on behalf of the telco fraternity.
The CEO of GIPS, Achi Hesse, said all processes have been completed and interoperability should be able to go live by the end of February 2018.
So we are very confident that come February ending, we should be able to meet the deadline, especially when the unit by itself is working. So what we need to do now is the system integrations, i.e. the telcos connecting to us. We actually going through a list of tests to ensure that it's working the way it should be. We sign off and then we are ready to go.
The mobile money interoperability contract was first awarded to Simpton Switch at a cost of 4.6 billion cedis, but GIPS is carrying it out at an estimated cost of 4 million cedis.
We'll be looking forward to see how that pans out. But on to other stories. The Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, ICU, and Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, say the high cost of living in the country could be blamed on frequent increases in petroleum prices at the local pumps. According to the ICU and the Chamber, increases in petroleum prices at the local pumps normally translates into higher prices for other goods and services.
The General Secretary of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, Solomon Kote, at a media conference, indicated the constant fuel price hikes in the country has shot up the cost of living for many Ghanaians.
The net effect of these rampant pump prices increases is a corresponding increase in prices of foodstuffs, goods and services, import duties and inflation generally as basic necessities of life shoot up in the face of rather stagnant meager incomes and salaries of Ghanaian workers.
He indicated the high cost of living is made worse with the Ghanaian appetite for imported products. History of this country shows these scenarios become a recipe for labor agitations for upward salary adjustment. The ICU General Secretary was, however, evasive whether or not labor will call for pay rise.
The issue of salary, we will look at it this way. Clearly, our constitution says that equal work for equal pay. Once we work, we must be remunerated. And our remuneration is also tied up to the productivity of the institution. So once the institution where we work in, our productivity lines is without any argument. Obviously, the worker and the union will continue to make our fair demand of what we have struggled, labored, and produced.
GASM has rewarded 63 distributors and customers across the country for their performance in 2017, which contributed to the company's sales and market share.
GASM Foundation, since its inception in 2002, has distributed over 500,000 bags of cement to support schools, health and other infrastructural projects in the country. Eduk Company, a Kumasi-based cement distributor, was adjudged the best national distributor for 2017.
If you look at all the industry and you see how people struggle, and then
in the grace of God, Eduk made it to that huge volumes of cement with GASEM. I'm proud of my company and also GASEM as a mother company.
The managing director of GASEM Cement, Morton Gade, appealed to government to speed up the ratification and constitution of the Ghana International Trade Competition Council. The commercial director of GASEM, Nana Philip Archer, acknowledged the appreciation.
My appeal tonight is to the government to make sure that the Ghana International Trade Commission bill is being enacted and enforced, and that they can get to work so we can all get a fair playing field. That's all what we are asking for.
The commercial director of GASEM, Nana Philip Archer, acknowledged the appreciable growth in cement use in the country last year due to various individual and government-funded construction projects, but expressed concern about the unfair business environment.
The capacity we have as at the end of 2017 is about 10 million tons. The consumption is just 5 million. So the volume that we can consume is as twice as the capacity. So indeed, really, there wasn't a need for any influx of cement. But we just want, an even playing field, and GASEM can compete any day, any time.
And that wraps up the business news here on News 360 this evening. There's more business news on our website, 3news.com. We have some sports news for you shortly. Stay with us.
Good evening. Let's get straight into our sports stories for the day. And the verdict was unanimous in the stands and on social media. Emmanuel Tego's 10th-round knockout win over Fernando Salcido of Argentina was abysmal, according to many observers. As Tego's camp hailed what they called another fine performance, critics say it marred the reputation of Ghana boxing. But the man at the center of the bout, referee Roger Bano, disagrees.
Emmanuel Tego thought he was providing entertainment. Most people watching thought he was ruining the sport as he beat Fernando Salcido with a mix of punches and antics in the ring. But the biggest criticism was reserved for referee Roger Bano, who stopped the fight in the 10th round. The suggestion has been that Bano simply bailed out Tego so his record will look good. He is adamant he stuck by the rules and is accusing his critics of ignorance.
I never ever made that decision for Tego to win by a knockout. At the time of the stoppage, people really don't understand the game of boxing. If they do, they will see I did a great job by working or by going to the rules of the book and applying what needs to be applied.
Local boxing promotion has seen an upsurge since the completion of the Bukum Boxing Arena, and interest in the sports is at an all-time high. Veteran sports presenter Kweku Ofosu was one of the many disappointed fans in the crowd.
I think Tego should be more serious. In boxing is different. If you look at all the serious boxers, they don't over-dramatize. The antics were too much.
Referee Bano disagrees that this would mar interest in the local boxing and draws an interesting comparison to make his point.
Boxing is a very interesting game. Like I have said, and I will always say, two different fighters make different fights. What Tego did, what would you say of Mayweather and then McGregor? Tego Salcido was better than Mayweather McGregor, if we will be speaking the truth. Because McGregor knew nothing about boxing, but Mayweather felt he needs to give him a chance. Mayweather would have finished the fight in round 1, round 2, round 3 if he wants to. But maybe he wants to entertain the world.
We are in the month of January, an inching closer to the end of the transfer window, which means deals are happening at a faster rate. And Swansea are hoping to do one involving a Ghanaian player. Now they've stepped up their bid to sign back Andre Ayew as the window inches closer. to the end. According to multiple reports in England, the Welsh club have had previous bids knocked back for the Black Stars deputy captain, but are set to be ready with a new bid of around £80 million for a player they sold to West Ham United for £20.5 million. If the deal goes through, it will be easily one of the most high-profile by a Ghanaian player this transfer window, and reunite the Ayew brothers of the same club since their days at Olympique de Marseille. And our build-up to the Ghana Premier League begins. Remember, on the 11th of February, the competition will be back. 16 clubs will be up for the battle to become league champions, but 3 of them are caught in an absolute limbo in terms of where they will be playing their home games. Liberty Professionals, Accra House of Folk Interallies wanted to use the Accra Sports Stadium. There are still question marks about that, as Liberty coach Michael Osei told Thierry Nyan in a special interview.
The announcement that the Accra Sports Stadium will not be accessible for the Ghana Premier League teams next season caused a lot of problems for the clubs hoping to use the facility. Liberty Professionals was one of them. The Dansoman-based club will be renovating their home grounds, Carindorf Park, and will need a new ground for the first half of next season. But they are still not sure where that is going to be and have been training on several pitches in Accra during pre-season.
We know that it can happen that we will not play here. Maybe we will start in the other venue. So we have already, make our mind that if we didn't play here and then we go to another venue, then we need to focus. So we have planned everything. That I've already psyched the boys. I've already talked to them. They know everything what is going on here. So they are okay with that, and then I'm also okay with that.
The ever-present side in the Premier League have struggled for a spot in the top flight for 2 seasons running, and hopefully this ground's confusion will not heighten their problems next season.
So the message seems very clear. United won't stand in Zlatan's way. It's not the same story for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, African Player of the Year a few years ago, top African goal scorer in the history of the Bundesliga. He wants to play in England. Arsenal want him, and reports today say the English club are close to an agreement to sign the Gabon striker from Borussia Dortmund for a staggering £60 million. But the transfer will not be sanctioned until Dortmund have a replacement lineup. Arsenal's Olivier Giroud has been mentioned, as has Chelsea's Batshuayi. Arsenal have already had 2 bids for the 28-year-old rejected by Dortmund. Arsenal are looking for Aubameyang to replace Chile forward Alexis Sanchez, who joined Manchester United earlier this month in a swap deal with midfielder Henrik Mkhitaryan. Remember, the transfer window closes on Wednesday. We've got a special program on Sports Unlimited at 10:30, rounding up all the biggest moves with all the analysis and everything. Natalie, meanwhile, will take the news up with the entertainment news.
Thanks. Thanks for the sports news there, Michael. Let's turn our attention to some entertainment news this evening. And the Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture, Catherine Afeku, has commended TV3 for championing the cause of developing and promoting local content on the airwaves. The sector minister, at her turn, of the Meet the Press series, cited the TV3 series Sadia as an example of how Ghanaian media can contribute to promote the country's culture while presenting a competitive alternative to foreign content.
The proliferation of foreign content in Ghanaian media was a topical issue which resonated throughout the Tourism Ministry's interaction with the media.
He's such a bad influence. I don't like him.
Sadia is a purely Ghanaian 100-episode television series put together and telecast on TV3. Barely 2 months after its premiere, the series has caught on with households and gained recognition of key stakeholders in the industry.
Media General has done something that deserves the applause. The series Sadia, which started airing on TV3 a few weeks ago, is one of the answers to drown the telenovelas because it's a competitive global village that we're in. The quality is good. I urge you to see it. It is well scripted, with a tight plot and a creative cast in the hands of a very creative director who is local.
The storyline for Sadia looks at pertinent issues such as patriotism, patriarchy, love, family ties, as well as rural-urban migration and other accompanying issues. The series showcases a refreshing pool of young and veteran talents.
A big thank you to the Minister of Tourism for commending us. I must say that this is the beginning of more things to come. Regarding Sadia, we realized there was big appetite for local content. TV3 has always been the pace-setter when it comes to good programming. And so we thought we should show the difference. We should lead the way.
General Manager TV3, Beatrice Abbey, reiterated the company's commitment to ensuring that viewers are not only entertained, but also educated.
The feedback has been tremendous. We work with figures, we work with market intelligence. And so from Geopol, from our market intelligence, TV3 is leading on the time belt when it comes to Sadia. We have great following on social media. We have great following on traditional media. And so we would ask that if you haven't started watching Sadia yet, you should watch. There's so many lessons you can learn from this series. It is for everybody. It's for that young girl coming up. It's for that young boy growing up in that community. It's for the husband, the wife, everybody. And Sadia is just the beginning of many more local productions to come. We believe in investing in the local productions. When you invest in local productions, the returns stay right here in the country.
Catch Sadia this and every Monday and Tuesday at 8 p.m. only on TV3.
Well, you're still live here on News 360. Let's take a look at what's happening on the international front. International front this evening, some issues that are coming up in the AU meeting in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia is the issue of China. China, in fact, blocking the AU headquarters, and we have been delving deeper into this issue, and we're going to continue doing so here as I interact with Alex Opong. He's the principal consultant at the E-Crime Bureau.
AU's technical staff claimed they had discovered that its servers were strangely active, with a peak in data transfer between midnight and 2 a.m. when its offices were empty. A computer scientist found that there was a massive transfer of internal data of the AU. Every night, the secrets of the institution were stored more than 8,000 kilometers away from Addis Ababa on mysterious servers hosted somewhere in Shanghai. The report added, citing unnamed internal sources. It also accused the Chinese of opening a window in the computer system of $200 million facility, which they installed. The breach is suspected to be intentional to allow intelligence agencies and hackers to have illegal access to information. There are concerns with the increase in Chinese influence on the African continent and indeed Ghana. In Ghana, the Chinese donated some computers to the Attorney General's office, which attracted security concerns from some Ghanaians. The Chinese continue to play a key role in the country's development by constructing key government infrastructure and provision of equipment.
Now, China has dismissed reports that it bugged the African Union headquarters and has described it as false. Quan Weilin, the Chinese ambassador to the AU, described the allegations as being absurd. Now, let's stay on this discussion. I'm joined on Skype, as I said earlier, by Alex Opong. He's the principal consultant at the E-Crime Bureau. Alex, good evening.
Good evening, Natalie.
Now, should we be worried as a continent?
Okay. Right. So the reports as reported in the Le Monde Afrique newspaper, which is a French newspaper, suggest that the AU building has been bugged, and that in the last 5 years or so, that's from 2012 to 2017, information has been basically transferred from Addis Ababa to Shanghai as part of the Chinese approach to what probably a lot of people would call espionage, which is basically just spying. In Africa, it's very difficult to answer that question. And the reason why I say that is we really don't know at this moment in time what kind of security assessments were conducted at the AU offices. We would like to think that was when you conducted certain monitoring, you perform certain monitoring or may perform certain security assessments, you should be able to identify peaks and certain activity within your network that would make you be suspicious of certain things that are happening within your computer systems. With the number, yes, we are, as rightly stated, there have been a number of donations by other countries besides China and therefore the question about whether we should be worried as to whether they are probably performing certain kinds of espionage activity to find out what's happening within our continent. It's one of those things that we'll probably be able to find out once we conducted comprehensive security assessments, as opposed to being able to come out with a straight answer to say that yes or no, we should be worried. So I think it's more about whether we are actually conducting the right assessments, whether we are doing the right monitoring to identify whether there are any suspicious activity on our networks. And I'm sure that our computer professionals are doing quite doing that on a day-to-day basis.
Very well. So locally, you're saying we should actually be concerned and a little worried. Now, Alex Opong, grateful for your time this evening. Principal consultant at the E-Crime Bureau, will certainly continue interacting with you in subsequent bulletins on this issue. Well, it's quite a concerning one there if we are being bugged by China.
I should think so. People thought it was the US and Europe who were, concerned with spying on Africa for, to enrich their economies. But well, here it is. China is also
an emerging superpower.
Absolutely. I mean, they need the influence. That's it for this edition of News 360. My name is Issa Moni.
And I'm Natalie Fort. We've got more news on our website. That's 3news.com. News at 10 will also simulcast on our sister station. That's 3FM 92.7. Thanks so much for watching. Have an incredible evening.